right, welcome. Today is Friday, February the 14th, Valentine's Day, and a very busy day up on the Hill. So let's jump right into it and run through some of the stuff that I saw today, and then I'd like to be able to share. So first of all, it is the last day for the Appropriations subcommittees to be meeting. Now, that's going to be good and bad. Good, because no more spending of money or appropriating of money. Bad, because we ran through that process so quickly. Bad, because now we're going to be opening up those 3 hours in the morning to more committee work to be able to hear some bills. So we're going to be having about 7 committees meeting each morning, and each one of these committees can hear anywhere from 2 up to 5 or even 6 bills. So you do the math on that, and we could be running through anywhere from 20 to 42 new bills being heard in committee every single morning. With that in mind, since we're wrapping up appropriations, there was an interesting bill that just came out today by Senator Henderson. And the bill is SB 143, and it's entitled Fiscal Impact of Initiatives. Now, kind of interesting here because, again, coming on the heels of appropriations, let me just read some of these lines. So line 33 through 40 says, the Office of the Legislative Fiscal Analyst, which we now know this is the full-time office that's coordinating the governor's budget with all of the departments and what they want, showing it to our legislators, and 9 times out of 10 it gets done. But carrying on, it says, the fiscal analyst shall prepare an unbiased, good faith, and here's what's new, initial fiscal impact estimate of the law proposed by the initiatives, not exceeding 100 words, plus 100 words per revenue source created or impacted by the proposed law. So I'm a little bit lost on this one. I thought more information was a good thing, but I guess a good senator would prefer, let's boil that back to about 100 words. Just give me the brass tacks. Again, is that really what we want, ladies and gentlemen? Do we want less information? And I get what probably is happening here, that we set new people up on these subcommittees. As a result, they're probably new. They're trying very quickly to learn, and some of this is just, shooting over their head. But carrying on, it says, the description of the total estimate fiscal impact of the proposed law over the time period or time periods determined by the Office of the Legislative Fiscal Analyst to be the most useful in understanding the estimated fiscal impact of the proposed law. So if I read that correctly, this idea that the fiscal analyst is basically running the appropriations committee just got even stronger, because now Senator Henderson would task the fiscal analyst with not only providing 100 words about what it is and the revenue that's going to fund that, but then they'd also like the analyst to look at those most useful estimated impacts. Again, I did not elect the fiscal analyst. I can't even figure out who they are. I go online, you've got a nice picture of them, you've got their background, they're all accountants, things of this nature, but beyond that, I don't know. From there, jumping down to the notes below, you can see that lines 51 through 64 contain a lot of things that are now being stripped out. So starting at line 58, it says, a dollar amount representing the estimated cost or savings, if any, to state or local government entities under the proposed law. If the proposed law would increase costs to state government, a listing of all sources or funding for the estimated costs. So it's like, hey, if this is going to cost more, could you just tell me, give me a hint, please, where could we find that funding? Where are we going to get the money to make sure that that happens? Then it says, again, a concise description and analysis titled funding source, not to exceed 100 words. I kind of don't follow this a little bit. I wish we had legislators that took the job operating on these subcommittees quite a bit more seriously. This is, again, $20 billion. Every tax that is collected in the state is funding this, and I really don't want to risk that 100 words is what's going to sway a legislator as relates to where this goes or where it doesn't go. And in the event that something needs to be spent, let's just count on this fiscal analyst to tell us, hey, I kind of think it could come from here or there. That's the role of the elected legislative branch, both the Senate and the House. Again, my opinion. Moving on. back to this idea that we now have all these subcommittees not meeting anymore. We now have another thing that I want to make sure all of us are very aware of. With all of these new bills, let's do the math on this for a second, right? So, number one, instead of meeting in both the morning and the afternoon, the House and the Senate are just going to be meeting in the morning from 10 a.m. to approximately noon, 11:50. What this means is that if we have those 7 committees running in the morning, 9 committees running in the afternoon, we have the potential to be introducing new legislation to the tune of about 35 or 40, all the way up to almost 100 new bills every day. How is a new legislator going to keep up on this? How is any legislator going to keep up on this? Because guess what your legislator is also doing? They are on a lot of these committees, so they're not able to pay attention to what's going on in the other 7, 8, 9 committees. Plus, they have their own legislation, ladies and gentlemen, that they are trying to run. How are they going to make this happen if it's just our elected legislator and their intern? I love a good intern. It's not going to work. So they need you. They need us. So make sure, if you do not know who your legislator is, go on to the link that's down below. Find your legislator. Make sure you're communicating with your legislator. They all love to know that they're hearing from their constituents and what your thoughts are. The other thing I wanted to touch on, and it was up in the show notes, is we've had a lot of bills running through. And in some regards, it can feel a little bit overwhelming. So far in the first 19 days, we have had 186 bills come through. 186. Sounds like a ton. How in the world are they juggling all of this? Well, let me give you another stat. The other stat is that only 27 of the bills have been contested, and out of those 27, only 16 have been contested by more than 10 votes, or only 8%. So, most of these bills that are being introduced are bills that are primarily just bringing the code up to date, right? Making sure that legislation that was run in the 80s, the 90s, even just a couple years ago, is now up to date. They're just steamrolling right through with 100% support. So again, we're going to have an explosion of bills, but we really need to focus on that 8% that has the ability to be contested, and we want to make sure that we don't fall asleep, ladies and gentlemen, that we remain awake, that we remain vigilant and able to help our legislator. The other thing that I wanted to get into a little bit is we have had so many different just kind of strange bills come up. And this legislative session, we have heard a number of bills about controlling predators and all of these predators attacking livestock, things of that nature. Now, irrelevant as it relates to that exact legislation, I want to touch on the legislators that are running these type of bills. Number one, they're all ranchers, which means, yes, they know a lot about all of this, but at the same time, is it really appropriate that someone who we elected and their business is ranching, as just one example, and they're going to be running legislation that has an ability to directly impact their private business? Isn't that a case where there's a conflict of interest? Again, even as meaningful as the legislation is, should we be allowing that? You know, should we let these doctors, these lawyers, these analysts that are, again, testifying about how this is going to impact their business, continue to run this legislation? So many of the attorneys love to run legislation, but again, they probably have a great viewpoint on it, but it's directly affecting their job, their revenue. And so again, when you ask yourself the question, why are these people running for office? I don't think we have to look very far. It is amazing because they're up there running legislation that a lot of the times is directly going to impact them, or through the influence of lobbyists, it's going to directly influence them. So again, make your voice known. We've got the bill count below. Again, happy Valentine's Day to everybody. On President's Day, Monday, the legislative session will not be meeting. I'll still try to do a little show. I've been thinking about trying to just reference what exactly is President's Day, go through some amazing quotes of our founding fathers, and so look forward to that. Thank you so much and have a great weekend.